It ain't much, but it's honest work. Hey guys, Sam here. Recently, the final beta of the MMO New World came out, and I've been noticing a lot of people who don't quite know what's going on. So I'm gonna put myself forward and give you guys my impressions of the first handful of levels and what I feel about the game after having played the closed and open betas. This isn't gonna be a typical in-depth review like the past few I've put out. For an MMO, I feel like that's a disservice not playing the end game. However, I also think the early game is important as well in order to hook new players and convince them why they should go all the way to the end game. Also, I have a life to live. Yeah, that's the good stuff. You play as an intrepid adventurer that you get to customize, going to Aeternum. On your way, your shipwrecks, you get yelled at,
You build rat.
and go through the tutorial that teaches you all the basics of combat and eating. Eventually, you get to a boss who wrecks you, and then for some reason teleport to a beachhead. Magic! Then you go through the rest of the tutorials, and by God, there are a lot of them. Basically, the first few hours are gonna teach you all of the systems from gathering, crafting, equipping armor, how towns work, leveling up. The list goes on. We could be here for a while. So let's talk visuals real quick. This game actually looks pretty decent for an MMO. The most impressive parts come when you look in the distance and see those beautiful landscapes. The less impressive parts come when you look at...
Grant us such feats.
Oh no. Presentation is definitely New World's strong suit though. I mean, forests are dense and filled with vegetation, lighting is solid, and it's so colorful and nice to look at. Outside of that, at least in the early game, it just feels a little bland. I know that in most MMOs, the early game isn't supposed to have all the cool stuff right off the bat, and you're supposed to be some loser running around causing mass genocide to make a name for yourself, but it just bores me. Armor sets are inspired by 16th century clothing, and they're okay. But the biggest problem I have is you can quickly look very... Enemies are some variations of undead, red, or wildlife. Not counting PvP. They honestly start to blend together after a while. I feel like there could be some more variation in this department, especially when I'm just getting puked on all the time by the same mob 10 levels in. Towns are also okay to look at. My biggest issue with them so far has just been the frame rate performance inside of them. It is really bad. Might be all the fires outside. Now that's toasty. On the bright side though, audio does sound pretty good here. Solid voice acting, good ambient sounds. And nothing is quite as satisfying as when you're hitting a rock with your pickaxe. I'm just disappointed with combat noises. It really doesn't sound like I'm hitting a dude with a freaking warhammer. And magic noises are, well... At least the bow and gun sounds good. The soundtrack is nice though, and I did enjoy standing around listening to it sometimes. Audio all around in New World though is pretty decent. It's just the combat noises are, yeah. Now that we've covered visuals and audio, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this with the gameplay. As I said earlier, it has your typical MMO features of combat, exploration, socialization, gathering, and crafting. Combat is action-based, relying less on abilities, more on spamming the mouse button and hitting the enemy over and over again until your finger breaks off. That's not to say you don't have abilities, but you can only slot 3 of them into your hotbar. You can dodge around and block, which is going to be important to, not dying. You can tell that this game was built around PvP when it comes to the combat aspects, keeping it simple while also trying to give it some depth as well. I am not a big fan of the combat though. It lacks impact, feels way too spammy, and honestly, getting stunned out of animations is so frustrating. Having access to only 3 abilities also feels limiting, and it's gonna be kind of strange to me going forward with that in PvE content. I'm hoping it gets better as you continue to level up, because even at level 20, it just still felt brutal. You do have a decent variety of weapons, from a sword and a shield, to a warhammer, hatchet, bow and arrow, frost gauntlet, and more. Since there are no classes that you choose from in New World, your weapon choice is important. Armor consists of light, medium, and heavy. You can mix and match those pieces. They can come with extra stat bonuses, and so on, typical MMO fare. Armor type also affects your dodging capabilities, going from an actual roll to a heavy sidestep. With New World, you can level up yourself, your weapons, your gathering, crafting, and your territory standing. And actually, this is one of my favorite parts of New World. When you level up your character, you can put character points into specific stats to build your character how you want, and it impacts the weapons that you use. When you level up weapons, you put mastery into it. You can then put those points into talent trees that they have. Finally, when you level up territory standing, you can put those points to increase gathering speed, or XP rate gains, or storage space earned in that specific territory. By the way, you are going to be doing a lot of gathering and crafting. Chopping down trees, beating up rocks, skinning animals, fishing, picking flowers, to then turn around and make them into something useful and profitable. The only thing I can knock against this system is just how long it takes when you're starting out. I get that you can lower that by leveling up in the territory you're in, getting better equipment to gather with, but man, that initial leveling can take forever. There is a weight system in the game as well. Good news is you can drop your items off into storage, which still allows you to craft without having them in your inventory. Bad news is if you're in a different territory, you can no longer do that. So just make sure you plan that out. Questing in this game is pretty simple. They mostly boil down to grab this, kill this, talk to them. I remember reading that the game started off as a PvP only game, and then Jeff Bezos flew by in his cock rocket to tell them to add in PvE content. And you can tell. Thanks to questing, you are going to be running all over the map, and dear God, I hope you like running. There is a fast travel system, but it uses a special There is a fast travel system in the game, but it uses a special currency called Azoth that is kind of hard to come by in the early game. I am seriously not joking though. You are going to be spending a lot of time running around to go to the quest zone and then having to hoof it all the way back to town in order to turn your quests in. I guess it's supposed to be a way to immerse yourself into the gameplay. You can go and build your crafting and gathering skills, but when your bounty board quest giver tells you to go and kill 10 vomit comets from the place you just spent 5 minutes running back from, it can be incredibly demoralizing. There are 6 dungeons or expeditions in the game and currently no raids from what I understand. I didn't get a chance to touch any of these, so I can't comment on it. It does seem like a healthy amount, though, to have in the game. Since this is an MMO, you do have the chance to hang out with other people, and more importantly, form your own in-game guild known as companies. Companies can do all sorts of fun stuff, like be able to control specific territories of the faction you belong to, impose tax laws on the players. If you are friends, though, guys, make sure you choose the same faction. Otherwise, you will not be able to join the same companies with each other. Speaking of factions, this is one of the bigger parts of New World. Pledge your allegiance to one of 3 different colors: green, yellow, or purple. Once you choose your faction, you can enter into the fantastic world of PvP. At the press of a button, you can flag yourself for player versus player combat, and this is where New World can get kind of crazy. Factions can control a zone, which give you bonuses such as reduced fast travel cost, linking of storage between zones, increased gathering nodes, and more if you are a member of said faction. Factions can go to war with each other for zones, and this can give you a nice sense that the world is actually being controlled by the players and could also be a source of longevity for the game if done right. There are also some other types of PvP activities in the game, but I got my cheeks clapped so hard in it, I was kind of scared away. Definitely go in with some friends. The only thing that has me worried is just how lopsided it could become. When I logged in on the first day of the beta, zones were already controlled by 2 factions I didn't want to be in. Thankfully, you can change the faction you are pledged to once, and any subsequent time you have to wait like the traitor you are for 120 days. Yikes. I do want to point out too that this game can be kind of buggy. I know that this is still technically beta, but at the time this specific beta came out, we are less than a month away. At this point, I call it less a beta, more a stress test demo, and come and try it out. Finally, I want to talk about every gamer's favorite words: microtransactions. According to the devs, they currently want to keep things at a cosmetic level with no introductions of pay-to-win mechanics currently. However, down the line, they eventually want to offer more quality of life improvements, which can mean something like a character boost or a profession boost. I'm okay with that, honestly, as long as it can get you into the game faster. Alright, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about with New World and most of the major systems. There are more things to talk about, like the bounty board / humans, currency, housing, and so on. But I feel like with what I talked about, that was the major bulk of what I think is important. As for how I think about it, I know that this impression video was kind of negative in a way, and I'm just gonna say this: I like New World. I don't think it's trying to be the next, what is it now? Is it World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14? I don't think it's trying to be the next final world of Fantasycraft 14 Shadowlands. I do, however, believe that it feels a little underbaked, at least in the early game. Of course, there is an entire MMO worth of content here. Once I get to the end game, I do want to talk a little bit more about that. And you can also still tell this game is massively leaning towards PvE elements, feeling a little tacked on though. Still though, for 40 freedom dollars, I think you can get some decent fun out of it, especially when playing with friends. I am also hopeful that the developers would be able to sustain and to keep supporting this game, and that Amazon won't pull the plug on it immediately like some other Amazon game they did. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This was a super simple video that I wanted to make, and I just wanted to put it out there because I've been really excited for New World, and I'm still really excited for it. I think a lot of people will have a lot of fun, and I think it'll definitely be enhanced more with friends. So, guys, I really do appreciate it. I hope to see all of you on the next video. Don't forget, we do have a Patreon where you guys can come and support. We also do stream on Twitch, so if you'd like to come and watch that, feel free to. Everyone, my name is Sam Talks, and I'll see all of you on the next video. Bye!